Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at wlr-which-key, which is a keymap manager for wlroots based compositors inspired by which-key. So basically it's a global keymap manager for wlroots based wayland compositors that will come up with a heads-up display showing you the keys you can press. So this is the configuration file, and this is a screenshot of what it actually looks like. What I'm going to do is actually press the keyboard hotkey and show you the menu come up on the screen and how we can use it. So what I've done is bound the keyboard hotkey to Super Z, and as you can see I've now got this little heads up display with two menus, so I can press W or O. So if I press O, what it's going to do is it's going to come up with a heads up display showing me different scenes in OBS that I can switch to using the WebSocket and a command called OBS command. So if I press J, it's now going to switch to the monitor, and if I do that back, I can switch to the laptop. I can switch to showing both the displays like that. Come back to the laptop. So let's have a look at the config file and how this works. So this is the config.yaml, which goes in .config wlr-which-key config.yaml. And this is just the standard config file that I've modified a bit. So what we've got here is we have the font, the background, the color, the border, the separator, the border width, the corner, the padding. What we have here is the anchor as well, so you can actually specify certain locations on the screen where that heads up display will come up, and you can dismiss the display just by pressing escape. So as you can see, I've got the heads up display coming up in the center, and what we've got down here is the actual menu. So this is the menu that appears when you press the hotkey, and I've just defined some basic stuff for the moment. So when I press Control Super Z, which I've created a keyboard shortcut in DWL. So the thing is, the reason why this is useful is I'm using DWL, and every time you want to add a new keyboard shortcut to DWL, you have to recompile it, which is a bit of a pain. So this kind of solves two problems. One, keeping all our key maps in DWL and having to recompile, and also it provides a way of actually showing you what keyboard shortcuts you've got defined, so you don't have to remember them all. So as you can see here, we've got W. When I press W, I get M listed here. If I escape, press O, I get that heads up display. So you can see that that corresponds to the menus. So what we've got here is, first of all, let me just come up here. We've got the first one, which is W, which is for sort of like general commands, basically. I've set it up. And what we have here is a submenu. So you press keyboard shortcut, and then you press W, and then you get the submenu. Okay, so what this function here does, this little bit does here, is the way this works is you have two bits. You have the description and then the command that you're actually going to run. So what I'm doing here is I'm running MPV, and what I'm doing is I'm using WL paste to take the URL from the clipboard and play it with MPV. So what that allows me to do is, if I come across to YouTube, give it a second. All right, okay. So let's come across to Magpie channel. Okay. So what I'll do is show you how that keyboard shortcut works. So I have Vimium installed as an extension in Firefox. You press F on the keyboard, it comes up with a list of keyboard shortcuts you can click to open that link in a new tab. However, if you press YF, you get the keyboard shortcuts come up here, and what it will do is when you press one of the keys listed here, it will copy that URL to the clipboard. So if I press K, it's going to copy that URL to the clipboard. I can now press my keyboard shortcut, which is Control Z, W, M, and that's going to open the video on the monitor. There you go. Right, switch back here. OBS, like that. So that's what that keyboard shortcut does, is it allows me to come into YouTube, easily copy a URL, WM, OBS, monitor, like so. I can switch back. So this is really useful because you could, I also use Tofi, which is like the menu, but they kind of serve different purposes. I've got Tofi set up to just open applications that have a desktop file, a desktop entry, you know, graphical applications, Firefox, OBS, Chromium, that sort of thing. Now you can pipe stuff into Tofi, but it's this kind of serves a different purpose, I think, in that it's not with Tofi and dmenu and things, you can't see the full list of all your commands listed the way that you can with this. So like OBS, I can, you know, press any of these keyboard shortcuts and it's automatically gonna switch to the scene or record. You know, I can press R to toggle recording, basically stop and start the recording. And the other ones listed are laptop, monitor, both, and FFmpeg, which correspond to scenes I've got set up in OBS Studio. So this is really handy for me if I want to, you know, basically switch between scenes using a global hotkey. So monitor, OBS, laptop. It just makes it a lot easier than having to you know, move your cursor across to OBS Studio or something. And the way that I have this set up here, so this is the OBS Studio menu, and what I have set up is I've enabled the WebSocket in OBS Studio, and there is a command line tool called OBS Command that allows you to interact with OBS Studio over the WebSocket and send commands to it to do things like switch scenes, toggle recording, all that kind of stuff. So what we basically got here is, this is the top level command. So you have a menu and then you have a sub menu inside it. And basically what we have, as I said, is the description and then the command. And as you can see here, these are just commands that you'd run in the terminal. You can also run a script as well. So what we've got here is OBS command, scene switch to laptop, switch to monitor, switch to both, switch to FFmpeg, and toggle recording. So if I come across to the example here, what you'll see is they have some examples for things like Wi-Fi, power, theme, laptop screen. Let me just fill the tea up a bit. So you can use this with scripts, regular commands that you'd run in the command line. And so some of the examples they've got here are things like toggling Wi-Fi, so running a script to toggle Wi-Fi, running Kitty, power, so what they're doing here is using systemctl to suspend, reboot, power off. You've got stuff here to toggle the theme. I don't know why you'd want that. Another one here, what we have is laptop screen. So toggle the laptop screen on and off, or run wlr-randor, which is like xrandor for Wayland, to set up your monitors basically, so you can say, you know, the monitor's on the right, the monitor's on the left, it's got this scale or whatever option you basically want to use. And this is how that shows up. So you can see here we've got the menu WPTL like this, so WPTL, and it then lists the description. And then when you press one of those, so if you press Wi-Fi, it then shows the submenu here that you can activate by pressing the keyboard shortcut. So this is really really handy, and as I said, this is basically inspired by the which key here. So this is which key for Vim, nvim, and this is actually inspired by emacs which-key. So emacs which-key, if I just come across here, if I press keyboard shortcuts and emacs, what happens is it will come up with a little display at the bottom prompting me for the commands that I can use. So if I press Control X, and it's now coming up with a list of the next keyboard shortcut I can press and the action that it's going to execute. So if I press 2, it's going to split the window below like that. Okay, so Control X, I can do 1, and it's going to do it like that. So that's which key, which I absolutely love because it's really helps you remember the keyboard shortcuts in Emacs. And I always thought it'd be nice if there was actually a version for the desktop as well. And basically now there is with wlr-which-key, and this is available. It is actually available if I come across here. PKG search WLR. What you'll see here is wlr-which-key. Right. Just switch back to that display there. So you can easily install this on freebsd because it's actually available as a package, but if it's not in your repository, you can install it with Cargo. So I'm not sure which other repositories it's available on different distros, but if we come across to the releases here, let's have a look. Okay, this is just the source code, so it doesn't actually have pre-built sort of binaries or web files for you know, various distros. So it may be in your distro's repo, but as I said, if it isn't, you can sort of basically download it and build it from source. And the configuration goes in .config wlr-which-key config.yaml. And on FreeBSD, it didn't install a example config file that I could find. A lot of applications, when you install them, they will install a sample config file, but that wasn't the case with this one. And this was the only bit of the config I could actually come across on the site. There isn't actually a lot if you search for wlr-which-key. So wlr-which-key, help to spell it properly. Okay, so that's the repository. No, I think this is another application. Okay. Okay, here's Max. This is the guy who wrote it. I wrote a similar tool a while ago, which uses the layer shell protocol to act as a pop-up. So there isn't a lot of information I could find about this command basically online. The only real thing I could actually find was the Git repository. So there isn't a lot out there on this. I couldn't find any blog posts, any YouTube videos, anything on Reddit, you know, people describing this. But it's pretty simple to get set up. And I said, the only thing is, if I come across to git freebsd dwl config. Okay, so this is my DWL config, and what we have here is a static const character, and we've given it a name wlr-which-key, and all we're doing is actually putting in the path to the binary here. So we're putting in the full path, and you can find the path where this is installed by running which wlr-which-key, and that will show you where it's actually installed. And then we put that into DWL, and then what we have down here is we've defined the keyboard shortcut. So basically what happens is when I press mod key Z, I get the little heads up display there. I can dismiss it using escape. So you have to define a keyboard shortcut key in your window manager or whatever to launch this. There is a application that I used years ago called what the hell was it called? It's called something like SHA keyboard. What was it called? Yeah. Is this the one? No. Was it? Let me just switch back here. Hang on. SHSX. Ah, yeah, that's it. SXHKD, which was originally developed for BSPWM, I believe, and this is a keyboard sort of manager that runs the daemon on X11, and you sort of run it in the background basically, and then you can press a keyboard shortcut to activate it. Now this works slightly differently. You don't actually run it as a daemon in the background. You just basically define a keyboard shortcut in your window manager that you press that will then start this program and come up with a heads up display. And to say if I run wlr-which-key here, you'll see it comes up, and I press escape. If I run pgrep wlr-which-key, you'll see there's nothing running. So what happens is you press the keyboard shortcut, it comes up, you run the command, and then it quits, and that's it. It's not running anymore. So it's not like a daemon that's running in the background, basically, like the SXHKD. And just finish the tee off. So that's basically all there is to it. You just need to install it, add in the config like this, set some of these options. I haven't changed many of these options here, but if I come across to my config and see, what you can do is you can set this to some of these options: center, left, right, top, bottom, bottom left, top left, etc. So if I do this to, for example, bottom left, now press the keyboard shortcut, you'll see it comes up down there at the bottom left. And I can do a top left. You see it comes up at the top left there. But I just got it set to center like this. So it's just, like a heads up thing there. And it's really handy. And it basically means that you don't have to remember loads of keyboard shortcuts. You just need to remember the keyboard shortcut for wlr-which-key. And then you'll have this nice little pop-up. You can press, so you can have multiple menus, and each menu has a submenu in which you can define commands to run, basically. So as I said here, we've got laptop, monitor, both, ffmpeg record toggle. So if I just press J, switches there, come back like that. So it's really handy for OBS Studio to be able to switch scenes. Now there's some things that it's not going to be suitable for. For example, volume. So I've got my volume keys bound to, you know, on your keyboard you have your volume keys, your media keys. It wouldn't be kind of suitable for that because you've got to do too many key presses. Also, I have a command using player CTL to toggle play and pause on a video, which I've got bound to Alt Super Space. So you wouldn't want to use it for things like that, that kind of you want an immediate sort of action on it, you know, like stopping a video or something, in my opinion anyway. It's kind of, it's more suitable for things like OBS or, as I said, the MPV option I was using down here, where I've basically got it to play the URL from the clipboard with MPV. Other things that you could do with this would be to create a command to use YTDLP to download the current video URL on the clipboard. So you could do that like this. So let's say call that Y. Let's call that YTDLP. YTDLP. Like that. And what we're doing here is I'm just sending the output to dev null, because what I found is with some commands, what will happen is they'll try and output the command into the thing you've run it with. So we wouldn't want it to start outputting the progress into the little heads up display thing. So let me see if I can come across to archive.org rather than using YouTube, because I get a bit funny about that. If I come across to archive.org public domain cartoons. Okay. So what I want to do is find a really short cartoon here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is come across to show all, and that will show me all of the URLs here. So let's find something that's kind of relatively small. We've got Alibaba here, Betty Boo, Colonel Bleep. Let's go for Popeye. Go for that. Fight to the finish. Fight to the finish. Again, what I could do is I could press YF here, copy that to the clipboard, and we then have the command here that we've just added. So if I press Super Z and then press General, you'll now see I have YTDLP. If I press Y and switch across here, pgrep wry. So maybe that's not running. Okay, so what have I done wrong there? That should work. But yeah, this was just on the fly. So let's try that again. So copy link. WY, maybe that. Not sure why that's not working, but that should. Have I got spelling mistake or something? Let's just do paste that out. WL paste. Okay, so it's pasted that out. So is it a issue with quoting or something? Sometimes you get issues with things needed to be quoted or escaped. So that could be possibly an issue. Let's see if I can fix that. I don't know if I can put that in single quotes or something. Let's just remove the dev null. Maybe that's causing the issue. Let's try that. Come back here. Copy that. General y. Plus there. YTDLP. No, I'll have to look at that one, but you get the general idea. Of course, me just doing something on the fly, it's never going to work, is it, in a demo? So I'm guessing it's kind of maybe an issue with pasting. So let me just YTDLP paste. Could also be that archival tends to be a bit slow sometimes, as you can see here. Takes quite a while to actually kick in. Okay, right now it's sort of kicking in, and now it's sort of downloading. Right, okay. I'll then Popeye. Right, but yeah, basically you get the gist. You can have a menu that has got a sub menu with commands that you can then run. So you know, that was just a quick thought of something you could do. You can grab stuff from the clipboard and then, you know, download it, play it with MPV and that sort of thing. So I have to look into YTDLP, but that'd be handy, as it just means you can come across here, copy a URL, and as I said, the one that works that I've got set up is for MPV, so I can just press Super Z WM. Let's switch across to the other display monitor, and you can see that's now playing. There's Popeye. Switch back. Okay, yeah. So that's it. So that's wlr-which-key, pkg search wlr-which-key. There we go. So that's available on freebsd. As I said, I'm not sure about other distros. Let's have a little look. See if it's got it in Ubuntu. Which key? Yeah, sometimes what happens is when you're searching for stuff, you'll get a list of packages available on Ubuntu or something. So maybe it's not on the Ubuntu repositories. Let's have a look if it's in the Arch repositories. Yeah, I can't see it listed anywhere. So it may be that it's just on FreeBSD that it's available as a package. You wouldn't think that FreeBSD has great support for the latest stuff, but it does actually. So if I come across here and search PKG, search Hyperland? How'd you spell the thing? Hyperland. I'm sure they've got a funny, yeah, they don't have the E. PKG search Hyperland. There we go. So Hyperland is available as a package on FreeBSD. I'm not using Hyperland because it has issues with NVIDIA graphics card, which is why I'm using DWL as my window manager, and I switched from WaveFile, which was causing issues with OBS Studio and popping and stuff like that. But there are some useful wlroots based command line tools that you can use. And as I said, another one that I've been looking at is what's it called? wlr-CTL. Let me just put this monocle mode. wlr-CTL. So I showed you this in a previous video, and what you can do with this, you can actually use it to warp the cursor, basically move the cursor from one screen to the other, and then use it as a keyboard shortcut so that I can press super period move my cursor back and back between the monitors. What it also can do is it can actually type, and it has this one here, window top level, which uses the foreign top level interface. Now, I haven't managed to get this to work, but what that will allow you to do is actually list the available windows running and actually manipulate them, put them into, you can minimize them, maximize them, full screen, focus, that sort of thing. But I can't actually get that to work at the moment. So wlrctl top level list, foreign top level management interface not found. So that may just be an issue on my setup with DWL and the wlrctl application not working together at the moment. But I can do wlrctl, was it keyboard type? I think it's type, is it? Type foo. There we go. You can see it printing out foo there. So that's another useful wlroots command. So this is the kind of division on Wayland. On Wayland, you've basically got things like GNOME and KDE, which are kind of like, at least GNOME is a closed shop. Basically, you can't really use any of these tools with GNOME. You kind of got to use extensions and that sort of thing, and it's really a bit like iOS GNOME, and it's locked down and it's telling you how you should use your computer, how you're supposed to interact with it, that sort of thing. So that's why wlroots is a bit more flexible in what you can do with it and tools that you can use with it. So basically, there are no tools like this that will work that I'm aware of with GNOME, because it doesn't use wlroots. wlroots is used by stuff like Sway. I think it's used by Hyperland, and a lot of the other things. Hikari uses it as well. I think DWL uses it. But I say that's the advantage of wlroots, is you've got some of these nice tools that you can actually use to replicate some of the functionality that maybe you had on Xorg with some different tools. And this is it kind of has a different use than something like Toffee here, which is my application launcher. Instead, with Toffee, you could type in a load. You can type stuff into Toffee or dmenu or those kind of things, or Roffee, but it's kind of not exactly the same. It's you have to know what you're searching for to run it. You have a kind of list come up here, and then you can start typing and it will open it. Whereas this application will give you a nice heads up display like this, and you can easily sort of execute the commands. And the useful thing about this is you don't have to remember loads of key bindings, because the problem is if you're using stuff like DWL has got a load of key bindings, to change to different tags, change to different layouts, manipulate the windows. So you've got to remember that. And then you're using something like Emacs, you've got to remember all the keyboard shortcuts for that. And then you've got your terminal with tmux and that sort of thing. So it kind of gets a bit overloading when you're trying to remember all these keyboard shortcuts, which is why I like Emacs, because we've got which-key here, and you can also run metax and run a command sort of directly. So it's nice if you're used to using which-key in Emacs or Vim. This is going to feel like it's right at home, basically. As I said, all you've got to do is actually create the keyboard shortcut you're going to run. So again, let me just come back to dwl make. So in dwl, there was only two parts. Defining the path to which key here, and then adding the keyboard shortcut. So you can see here in DWL what I've got is keyboard shortcuts for raising the volume, lowering the volume, muting the volume. And what I want to do is actually mention nice guy left a comment about how you can improve this, because I did a video on this previously and mentioned you needed to include the XF86 header. You don't actually. That's not needed. DWL already has that built in. So what you can do is just add this sort of 2 bits of code here. You define your commands for raising and lowering the volume and muting it. And you can see here I'm using the mixer command on freebsd, and then what we have here is xkb key xf86 audio raise volume. What I was doing before was I was including the header, and the command I was running was like this command here, but his name escapes me, but I left a note in the under the video. But I said what you do is you actually use these commands here, xkb key, and then these to raise and lower in the volume. And as I said, what we've got in here is we've got all the keyboard shortcuts for DWL. I've got a couple of things set up here for opening Emacs, and as I said, using player CTL to play and pause the video. Player CTL is a command line application that works with Empress, and Empress is a standard that allows you to interact with video players and things like MPV. You've got to install something for that, MPV Empress, but your browser will support Empress. Both Firefox, Chromium, and other browsers should support it. And what it allows you to do is basically have a keyboard shortcut you can run when the video is not focused in the browser, so that you can play and toggle play and pause, and that's really, really handy, because you may be working on you may be focused on this monitor, playing something on the other screen, and you quickly want to play and pause it. Just press the keyboard shortcut. But as I said, the issue with DWL, oh, you bastard. Okay. The issue with DWL is every time you put a keyboard shortcut in, you're going to have to recompile it, which doesn't take long, but what you've got to do is you've got to recompile it. You have to then log out, and then you've got to copy the DWL, new version of DWL into user local bin, and then restart DWL. So it makes it difficult if you're actually trying to test out commands, because every time you want to test something out, you've got to recompile DWL, log out, and then try it. So that's why this is really handy, because it means you can keep all your keyboard shortcuts in a separate file and have a nice menu system to activate them. Be reminded of the keyboard shortcuts here, what they're going to do, so you can see MPV play, YTDLP. Just means you don't have to remember all the keyboard shortcuts. I could increase the font size here, so got something, yeah, font size. So say I want I want that a bit bigger. There we go, that's a bit bigger. Let's try 18. There we go. So maybe having it a bit bigger is better. And what I've also done here is took a bit of tracking down, but managed to get the same color for the border as I've got in DWL up here, so that it sort of blends in a bit more. You will want to have a sort of a contrast between a border and a sort of background color here, so that kind of you've got a bit of contrast with the window it's actually over, because otherwise it's going to be a bit difficult to read. If I come across here, Whoop. As you can see, that's it's a nice size. Press OBS like that. Switch to the monitor there. Switch back. Okay. So yeah, really handy. Might not be available in your distro's repository, but you should just be able to build it with Ninja. Was it Ninja? It's Cargo. So you need to set up Cargo. So like Ubuntu Cargo. Okay, installation Cargo. Okay. So yeah, it's Rust and Cargo. So just do a little search for Rust. I hate these things where you have to pipe something into a shell. You may be able to install. I think I've got Cargo installed. Right, Cargo. Yeah. So on FreeBSD, you can actually install Rust, which will install Cargo, but it does take up about a gig of space to actually do that. But have a look on your distro on how you install Rust and Cargo, and then basically all you need to do is download the repository, Cargo install wlroots-key -- locked, set up your config like that. And as I said, you do need to set up a keyboard hotkey to activate this, because it's not like a daemon that's running in the background. It exits every time you finished, which is a good thing, really. So have a look at this. It's really worth it if you want an application launcher that's got global hotkeys. You've got global hotkeys on things like GNOME and KDE that you you use in your in the settings, but on window managers you don't really have a big settings thing where you can add all the hotkeys. And SXHKD that I previously used on X11 obviously doesn't work on Wayland. So this was the best keyboard hotkey manager that I could come across that was also in the FreeBSD repository as well, which kind of helps. I quite like using tools that are available, if possible, on the distro, because it just makes it easier to keep them updated. So that's all for now. I'll put links to all this under the video. Check it out. It's really nice and easy. Instead, I can now stop this recording by pressing Ctrl+Z, O, and then R to toggle recording. So when I press R, it's going to stop the recording. So this is really useful for OBS Studio because, as I said, it'll allow you to do manipulate OBS Studio over the web socket using OBS command. So let me just show you OBS command before I quit the video. OBS command, OBS command. Yeah, this is the one. I think I showed you this in the previous video. Okay. Oh, so there's new release. So these are some of the options you have with OBS command, and this works with OBS WebSocket version 5. A lot of those tools only work with the old version of the WebSocket on older versions of OBS Studio. So this is the only one I could find that works with the current version of OBS Studio. And as you can see here, you can switch scenes, switch scene collections, toggle mute, toggle recording, streaming start, virtual cam, replay, lots of useful stuff. And as I said, once you've got that set up, you can basically use it in a menu like this. So install OBS command is another Rust tool as well. It's so you may need to install Rust and Cargo to install it, but as you can see here, I've got these commands set up so that I can switch scenes here and then toggle recording. So all I need to do to stop the recording, as I said, is Super Z, and I'm out of here.